The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
All right, here we go. Tennessee with a win. Welcome, as we appreciate you joining us. 45-14 and a bounce back from that. I wouldn't say devastating, but definitely a hurtful loss to Florida. Let me just start with Caleb Calhoun, the one, the only, and be sure and check out coverage on offthehooksports.com with postgame columns from Jimmy Hyams, Josh Ward, Caleb Jarreau, and Caleb Calhoun. So, Caleb, what did you think of the Vols in the 45-14 win and the bounce back game against the UTSA Roadrunners?
I thought Tennessee showed a new element to their offense that, quite honestly, Dave, you and I had not really screamed for, but we had been saying for a while they need to show, which was that Joe Milton in the run game needed to happen. That 81-yard touchdown run by Joe Milton honestly completely changed the entire way Texas San Antonio was going to play defense in that game. Or UTSA. Apparently, they like to be called UTSA. By the way, credit to UTSA Twitter. They compete with Vol Twitter. For a small school, they were really good on Twitter. I got to give them credit for that.
I didn't realize that. It is funny how you talk about how one play can kind of change the tone of the game. Usually we talk about a play, at least second quarter or second half, but that one play did kind of change the way I think UTSA felt about their chances. They had to play a perfect game, and Tennessee had to play a down game for them to really threaten. But yeah, and there were a couple of other things that I would add to that. I liked the shovel pass. I liked the screen passes, and people want to tear the screen passes apart. But listen, you got a group of very physical, athletic receivers. You've got defenses that are dropping back, unlike last year when Tennessee surprised some people with their downfield passing game. They're trying to take those away. So I like the underneath stuff, and Tennessee needs to get better at running the football to draw some of those defenders up to the line of scrimmage. I really enjoyed watching this game because I feel like I'm understanding what Josh Heupel is figuring out with his offense. A little more option, like you mentioned as well. I enjoyed watching the game because I feel like Josh Heupel and Milton are getting in sync together because he's a different quarterback than Hendon Hooker was last year.
Yeah, and that's what people have to understand. And I think it's funny. There were two aspects to this offense that make that clear. There was one where he needed to be more like Hendon Hooker, and that was that 81-yard touchdown run. Because as you know, and as I know, Joe Milton has been way too hesitant to run the ball in this system. So what have teams been doing? Let's just call it out what they've been doing. They've been playing a very soft coverage, but they've also, if you watched Florida last week, they were cheating in the middle on the defensive line, which made it really hard for that vertical rushing attack. Well, if they're going to cheat on the defensive line, Dave, quarterback needs to keep it and run with it every time. And Milton did that the first drive. That's a touchdown. What do they do the next two drives? 2 9-play drives. One ended in a touchdown. The other ended in a missed field goal. Why was that key? We've talked about this. We talked about this at the beginning of this year. I don't mean this season. At the beginning of 2023. And you said this right after the Orange Bowl, which was that this offense was going to have to be more ball control with what Milton does. Well, that's exactly what we saw in this game. Now, keep in mind, it's against Texas San Antonio. I do have some negatives to point out, but I will say I think, at least for now, similar to what I said about the Clemson game, the clock is somewhat reset with Joe Milton, which is okay. You can't just cheat and sell out to certain aspects if he's going to be willing to run and if Heupel's going to stay patient. And that happened in this game, and you got to give them credit for that.
Yep. And let's share some comments by Moondrop's Beauty. Beria, Offense looked better, but Joe has got to hit the passes that he missed, worried about the defense. All right, let's talk about those. And your avatar alone makes this show a lot better looking with me and Caleb Calhoun. So Joe Milton did miss on the squirrel white pass. There was an 0 for 8 streak at one point. But I've got to give him a lot of credit for the Ramel Keaton touchdown pass. The other long pass to Ramel Keaton, in which he was slow to get up, I thought that was into coverage. That would have taken a perfect pass. So, yes, there are streaks in which Joe Milton seems to go a little bit cold. But again, I think that's fine-tuning. I feel a lot better about Tennessee and their chances to be at a championship level after this game than Austin Peay.
Yeah, and let's talk about where those misses came. Those misses, and the worst, by the way, was that red zone overthrow to Squirrel White. That's an elementary throw that a quarterback has to make, right, Dave?
Yes, that one was bad. That was an F- ball.
Yes, exactly. However, I don't want to pile on harder than I did on Friday, but that came after Joe Milton did get banged up and got hurt because of, Dave, let's call it what it was, a whiff by Andre Carrick. An absolute whiff of a block that should not be allowed if you're going to start in Power 5 football or even Division I football. The worst missed block in the history of me watching Tennessee football that I've ever seen. Okay.
I think you said that about John Campbell in week 1. But anyway.
No, John Campbell made a mental error where he cut one way and he got beat on it wasn't like a spin move. This was a whiff of a block where Andre Carrick just got beat. I'm sorry to pile on, Dave, but you got to get him out of there. You got to get Andre Carrick out of there.
I don't think you have anybody else to play at this point, but Cooper Mays needs to come back. We know that. He was stressed again, and we'll see when he comes back. The other point that Moon Drop Beauty brought up is, and I hope you're subscribed. Like and subscribe, by the way. Portions of the program brought to you by the Hemp House, and I'll tell you about that. Also, the Herald Group, we'll get to that. She also brought up worried about the defense. There were basically 2 drives in which UTSA showed up. Here's why I'm not worried about the defense is, Caleb, you had a new quarterback in there. They probably did some different stuff. He was also a lefty. So it's going to be a different looking offense. I think that surprised Tennessee. I've seen it a million times in football. You change quarterbacks either because of injury or whatever reason, that typically you will see a defense struggle to adapt. Your thoughts on that? It's brought to you by Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership, experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, also making your children safer one school at a time. If you're a private school, your children are, be sure and talk to them about Herald Group Security Solutions. They make your children safer, heraldgrp.com. So your thoughts on that, Caleb? Tennessee's defense.
The only thing I will say this about Tennessee's defense is that their open field tackling is now, and I know you talk about it's not part of what they focus on. It's not what Tim Banks focuses on. It's more about a vertical attack to throw the offense off their game. But the open field tackling is an issue, and it is a concern. And it happened again with UTSA in this game. And I thought that Florida run, remember the run they had to score a touchdown to tie it up last week? Well, not really tie it up because they missed an extra point, but to effectively tie it up, was based on horrible open field tackling. That happened in the third quarter for Tennessee in this game.
It did, but there were just 3 missed tackles at the end of the day. When the game was in question, there might have been one at the very, very end, but just 3 missed tackles. So I don't have a huge problem with it. But again, this is UTSA, so we've got to take everything that you and I say, we've got to grade it a little bit. This is not a very good football team. Want to get to comment from Roto22. Awful game management by Vols. Joe could have gotten seriously injured, and they just leave him in when the game wasn't even in question. Come on, Roto. You just wanted to see Nico a little bit earlier. I did too. I thought he would run out there to start the second half, but he did not. I thought Joe Milton played a little bit longer than he should have, especially considering the knee. But listen, if you had any question whatsoever that Josh Heupel may make a change, that should answer it. because you've got a backdrop, Caleb, to say Joe had the knee injury. We ran Nico out there to see how he would do. The game wasn't in question. You've got a perfect excuse to go out there second half and run the offense just like you normally would. They didn't do that. So I'm going to stand by what I've said for a long time. Aside from injury or a horrible performance, Joe Milton is your starting quarterback for the rest of this year. And I mean like 2 or 3 horrible performances in a row.
No, and Heupel's playing the long game for a few things. One, he's playing with Nico. I've talked to you guys for a while about Nico's health and his size, and he needs to get bigger. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't scared when he got his face mask grabbed at the end of that game and thrown down. I'm sorry, but like, you're already scared seeing that. There should have been a penalty because of how small he is. Joe Milton, whatever you guys want to think, Joe Milton has the team. This is his team in the sense of the players want to play for Joe Milton. They respect.
Amen. Thank you. That's my column that's on offthehooksports.com right now. That's basically it. He's part of the leadership group that is going to guide this team to make a change. Even if you said Nico's a tick better, even if he was, to make a change could destroy team chemistry.
It could. And by the way, not just for this year, because there's going to be players on this team next year. And how are they going to feel? And I'm also going to say this. Guys, some of the issues y'all saw with Joe Milton, you saw on one drive with Nico in this game. And one of those is, I'm calling out names again, okay? Because I just love calling out names. Dante Thornton dropped a perfect pass from Nico on a quick slant that killed a drive that you could tell Heupel wanted to get a drive going for Nico to try to get his feet wet. And he couldn't because Dante Thornton dropped another pass. Dante Thornton really needs to get his act together because he is not fighting for balls and he's dropping a lot of passes. And by the way, Oregon just blew out Colorado today. I was right. Dave was wrong again when it comes to Oregon, Colorado. Just want to point that out. But they're not missing Dante Thornton and they're not missing him for a reason.
No, and on our message board here, we've got Roto saying Vols can't keep dropping passes the way he has. Completely agree with that. And I will tell you, as we looked at it and Caleb broke it down last week, the transfers have not been tremendously great, which we would have thought Dante Thornton would be one of the stars, but that hasn't been the case. And
I called him Kevin Durant going to the Warriors offense. I'm eating so much crow on that.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of crow. So as far as long-term, again, like and subscribe. And by the way, check this out. We got the Big Orange Crunch that is available at hemphousechat.com. That's 2 T's, hemphousechat.com. And they're fantastic for your hemp dispensary online. You can order there. And this is the cool part. Guess what, Caleb? 50% off on the Big Orange Crunch. 50% off. Just use the promo code HOOKED and they'll take care of you. It's right here. So it's delicious. You'll love it. And so when I look at Tennessee and their play overall, when they started out, you get the big run. But the other thing that I liked is they got Dylan Sampson involved early and then Dylan Sampson involved late. I thought that Joey Halsley brought up a point last week. He kind of gave a little hint. Listen, I think Tennessee's coaching staff just messed up against Florida. I think they got discombobulated and that he didn't get Dylan Sampson in the game. And he said he's going to be involved in the game. If the exact quote, I believe, was he knows what we think of him. He's going to get the ball in his hands. Probably not the exact quote, paraphrase. He did get the ball in his hands, and he's a playmaker.
Well, see, I'm going to break with you on that. Part of getting the ball in Dylan Sampson's hands, even with the all-purpose backs and Josh Heupel's system, it's a vertical attack. Running the ball. Similar to, it's funny because I keep saying the phrase vertical attack for Tim Banks' defense, but running the ball on offense, it's also a vertical attack. You can't have the defensive tackle selling out in the middle if you're going to have that. If they do sell out in the middle, Dylan Sampson as an all-purpose back is not your threat. You got to keep them honest, and that's where you need Joe Milton to run with the ball. This is an underrated – we kind of thought this ahead of time because Josh Heupel was so successful with Drew Lock, who is not a mobile quarterback, that the quarterback doesn't need to run with the ball. The more I'm watching Heupel's offense now, Dave, I'm realizing unless they're accurate over the middle, which Joe Milton is not, and we have determined that he's not, and I'm not so sure Hendon Hooker was either, by the way, because he never really had to do it. You've got to be willing to run with the ball a little bit. So I think the reason they were able to get Sampson involved was because of that run by Milton to start the game. It completely changed how UTSA was going to play defense in this one.
Post on the message board, Nico played for 2 seconds and they won't let him throw the ball. Again, that just speaks to my point. They are all on the Joe Milton bandwagon. I'm not saying they shouldn't be. This is not a question
but
of
they let him throw the ball.
Yeah, he did.
I mean,
he did throw the ball. I think
they
they
passed
mean
to Dante Thornton, and Thornton dropped it. Not Nico's fault. And then Nico got his face mask grabbed in what should have been a penalty. Another failure by the refs. I don't know who performed worse, Dante Thornton, Andre Carrick, or the refs. But SEC refs. Who's been worse through the first 4 games for Tennessee? Those 4.
Might have been one of the color commentators that I was listening to. But anyway,
wasn't he a coach?
Maybe. Are you still a coach if you're a coach at Vanderbilt? They did look better. Don't get me wrong. I'm thinking about SEC play. I agree.
But compared to Austin Peay, they were better than they were against Austin Peay.
Travis says the team struggles in all aspects. It's disappointing. So I'm finding a wide range of the way you view this game. Listen, I don't have a huge issue with a team going a little bit flat when a new quarterback comes in there defensively and giving up 14 points. Listen, they knew the game was over at halftime. They knew they were a lot better than these guys. So, yes, you would like for them to be mature and blow them out by 68 points. But I just don't think this offense is going to do that this year.
No, that's a completely different design from last year. They're not going to hit the big plays as often. Maybe they will down the road. I will say that. I think that defenses have adjusted specifically to what they didn't believe Joe Milton could do. And Dave, let's be honest, Joe Milton didn't show he could do it for a while. So I'm seeing what you're putting on the message board now. I don't think he's good in the booth, but Derek Mason should not be coaching Tennessee's defense either. Tennessee's got a fine defensive coordinator.
He's bad in the booth, though. Wow, it's like he didn't want to be there. It was like 3-word sentences. Ball's good.
Actually, his analysis wasn't bad. It was the way he delivered, which is a big point.
Okay, that's fair.
My question to you, Dave. It's funny he shares your name. Dave Neal's been doing SEC football for so long. How come he hasn't been able to move up from like the lowest tier SEC game each Saturday?
I'm not going to pick on Dave Neal. I think he does a good job.
I agree. I think he does a great job. But why have they not given him he should have had Brad Nessler's job at CBS, right? He deserved that.
I don't know. I'm going to get back to the Vols specifically. Any other standouts for you or any other major points that you want to bring up about Tennessee's play? I'll remind people to click like and subscribe, and we're live each and every weekday at 10 a.m. Philip Fulmer, by the way, drops tomorrow in our Celebrate 98 series. Also, the Vol Report with Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren. We'll have that and that Sunday show with Fred White. So hit that like and subscribe button. Subscribe for sure. Turn your notifications on so you know when things are kicking your way. What else, Caleb, stood out to you? Elias says maybe Dave Neal just doesn't want to travel far from home. He's in Atlanta. That actually could be the case. He could also have another.
He's got a sweet gig. You're right.
He could have another full-time job. So, but anyway, let's not talk about Dave Neal. What else stood out?
I'm not picking on him. I think he does a good job.
I do too. I think he's good. Tom Hart's my favorite by far. Anyway, I don't want to talk about announcers. That's like my rule. I don't like talking about other broadcasters, and I can't believe I said that about Derek Mason. That might be the first time in my career, actually. Go ahead, Caleb.
Guys, Dave is just biased because Dave Neal's name is Dave. Okay, we're just going to get that out there. But I will say that
Davis, then I would be biased.
So what I will say is that don't freak out about special teams tonight, guys, because there was a big mental error with Cam Selden trying to make a play on a ball, which was really stupid. That happens sometimes. You'd rather have it in this game, Dave, than you would in an SEC game. So you're fine with that. Charles Campbell missing a field goal. It was a 52-yard field goal. I can forgive college kickers missing 52-yard field goals always.
Yeah, you've said that before, and I think you're right.
Yeah, they should be automatic in 40, hit or miss from 40 to 50. And I can live with missing beyond 50. Not NFL should be automatic up to 50 and hit most of their 50 or beyond field goals. But college, I can live with that. I can't live with the Clemson kicker today who cost me some darn money by missing a 29-yard field goal to win the game. And I'm sorry. How come I lose money, but he gets to keep a scholarship? That's just not fair.
Caleb, South Carolina coming up, and this should be a revenge game for the Vols, I would think. And it's interesting, our message board. Some people are encouraged, some people discouraged. I find myself encouraged. So I guess it's a glass half full, half empty. Depends on which day you catch me. But he's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the Big Rap, brought to you by our friends at Apparel Group Security Solutions and the Hemp House. Again, the Big Orange Crunch, 50% off. Take advantage of that. And Herald Group Security Solutions, making your children safer. Learn more, heraldgrp.com. Again, offthehooksports.com, complete coverage from Jimmy Himes, Josh Ward, Caleb Calhoun, Caleb Giroux, throwing heat. I even wrote something too. For Caleb, I'm Dave. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook.